the other day. It said, if you want to impress someone, tell them about your success. If you want to impact someone, tell them about your failure. So I'm going to share a little bit. As a child, I was most fortunate. My mom and dad made sure I was in Sunday school every week, and I had a wonderful Sunday school teacher, so shout out to Sunday school teachers. I accepted Jesus at age 9, and as a child, I was the child that colored in the lines. I was the child that always wanted to make sure that I made the adults happy in my life. So through my childhood, there really weren't a lot of ups and downs. I was kind of the child that probably parents maybe wanted and stuff. Shortly after my 19th birthday, my mom passed away, and I moved quickly from childhood into adulthood. I worked full-time, I was there for my dad. My parents were older, just as a point of reference. My mom had been 45 when I was born, so even though I was 19, she was 64. So I was there for my dad, and I also was involved in my church. I volunteered, I was leading Sunday school classes, and I was connected in my church. And as I said, I was the child that colored in the lines, and as an adult, I became the young woman that had checklists, to-do boxes. Some people would have said a little OCD, but I was getting things done, and I also had dreams and desires for my life. And you guys will probably laugh, but I had planned I was going to be married at 25, first child at 30, and second at 35. I was going to live that American dream. And I saw it happening for people around me. And so I thought, I can achieve this. It's on my list. In my 20s, opportunities for more distractions came up, and also just ups and downs of life rolled in. And you have to remember, I was in my early 20s in the 70s, in the late 70s, and our world had shifted from a world that valued God's values, that valued God's principles, to a world that said, do what you want, do what makes you happy. And that was a big emphasis, do what makes you happy. And I was an adult. And so shortly after that, I found myself in a relationship that was not inside God's will. And that's a nice way to say I was in sin. And probably from the world's view, it would have been no big deal, adults. But as a Christ follower, I knew that wasn't God's plan for me. And as much as I wanted it to be a way to fulfill that dream, that 25, 30, 35 plan, instead I found myself with the weight of shame, embarrassment, and a feeling of utter failure. So I thought, well, if I get married, it will make it all right. And one of the things that I learned through this time was that no matter how much you love someone, you cannot make them someone they don't want to be. You can't make them do something they don't want to do. So I was essentially stuck. I knew what to do. I mean, I was a believer. I knew what to do, but it was so hard, and I just couldn't, or I wouldn't, whichever one you want to take. And so I felt very stuck. And I thought, doesn't God know the desires of my heart? The Bible tells me to tell him. And I'm like, why is this not happening the way I think it should? And I thought, well, is he angry? I knew he loved me, but where was the love at? And was I outside of that love? One evening as I was driving home, once again asking myself, how can I do this? How can I basically live two lives? Be, on one hand, responsible adult, working, caring for my dad, working in my church, and on the other hand side, living a life that is not honoring to God. And I'm crying, and a song came on the radio, and probably some of you may remember it. It was a song by Casting Crowns called East to West. It's taken from Psalm 103:12. And the lyrics really captured my heart because they said, surrounded by the chains of yesterday, yet I know how far you have cast my sin from the east to the west. And as I drove home and I'm in tears, I really recognized that God did see me. He saw me in all my failure, in all my struggles of trying to do the right thing but failing each time. But he loved me. And he reminded me that I was more than a failure. I was more than my regrets. I was his child. I was loved by him. And that he would be the fulfiller of my dreams. It wasn't easy, but it was a turning point. And at that point, I turned my dreams and desires over to him, trusting that his dreams would be better for me than anything that I could make happen. And dreams are funny. Sometimes we have dreams and we decide we are going to make them happen, but they are not dreams of God. They're our dreams. And so this was a challenge. I mean, I had to make the decision. It was an everyday decision. Turn my dreams over to Him. Turn them over. Trust Him. And some of you know me long enough to know, actually, I've never married. I don't have children. However, the dream and desires that I had as the early 20-year-old turned to be God's dreams and God's desires. And He has blessed me abundantly. He's given me children in different ways. He's given me family because God knows the desires of our hearts. And He knew I was looking for purpose. I was looking for place. I was looking for love, and I was looking for connection. And all of those He has given me, and He's given them to me abundantly. And I can say that I live with contentment and peace in His desires. And now I look at the opportunities that have been presented to me over these years, and oftentimes I am in tears, but now they're tears of thankfulness and joy for the great mercy that He's bestowed upon me. Thank you.
Wow. Amen.